Happy Sabbath.
Let me pray. Father in heaven, eternal God, bless us again. It's always a joy to be in your house on your blessed Sabbath day.
Amen.
I'm asking you, Lord, and pleading with you on behalf of everyone here, Lord, that you just be with us today in a mighty and marvelous way. And by your grace, dear Lord, we're going to have a positive Christ-filled experience. Bless us this day, Lord, not because we're worthy, but because Jesus is worthy. Now, Lord, speak through me, dear Father. Don't let me talk to your people. Please, you know I have nothing to say. But you say it all, Lord, so that they may be better prepared for the coming of your dear Son. Because we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I want to share with you this morning something that has been very near and dear to me, more so recently than it has been in a long time. You know my prayer partner, Elder Morris, Steve, me and my wife, we're praying every single day. All of the leadership in this church, our pastor. There's so many people that are suffering from so many things. Cancer, diabetes, hypertension, tuberculosis, you name it. Our people are suffering from it. Not just here, but we're praying for people all over the country. Am I right, Elder Morris?
Yes.
All over the country. Because we get the phone calls. And the Lord just impressed me. And it has to be the Lord. It has to be the Lord. Prayer is wonderful and we need to pray. But we need to talk about what's causing some of the things that we're dealing with as a people.
Amen.
And in going back to our prophetess, because I know she had a lot to say. She had a lot to say about this. I discovered again, the reasons for our dilemma. And it all begins at the table. It all begins at the table. And so we need to talk about it. We need to talk about that. Let me just remind you, Robert, if you'll put our text back up there, I want to remind you through this text, these texts of what God prepared for our tables. And then God said, I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. They will be yours for food. What will they be?
Yours.
For food. And it was so. And to all the beasts of the earth, and all the birds of the air, and all the creatures that move on the ground, everything that has the breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food. You see, even the animals, it was not God's intention for them to eat meat. Does anybody agree with me? It was not his intentions for them to eat meat. He said, everything that has breath in it, I give every green plant for food. And it was so. And what did he say in 31? Put 31 up there, Robert. He saw all that he had made. And it wasn't just good, it was very good. It was very good. The table that God prepared for us, he said that it was very good. According to creation's account, as we just read. And as we go a few texts earlier, we understand that God created us, you and I, mankind, to worship him and serve him. And then he provided everything that we need. Don't go into that yet, brother. He provided everything that we needed to do so, to worship and serve him happily and healthy. Now, the servant of the Lord, Ellen White, said, we are God's workmanship. He is the owner of the whole person. Body and soul are his. He said that, 1893, in the Youth Instructor. She said, body and soul, our body and our soul belong to God. Mm-hmm. Brethren, it was God's desire, and it is God's desire for all of his creation, you and I, that we remain happy and healthy as we worship him. We are blessed with the power of reason. Somebody ought to say amen. Amen. We are blessed with the power of reason. We can think, and we should consider intelligently the physical structure of the human body. There is no other creature in all the earth like us. No. Who agrees with me on that? Who sees that besides me? There is no other creature on earth like us. She said, consider intelligently your physical structure. Psalms 139:14 state that we should praise him because we are fearfully and wonderfully what? Made. Here, brethren, here Ellen White said, she said, Jehovah has given a specimen of himself, for mankind was made in the image and likeness of God. Amen. Amen. God gave a specimen of himself when he created you and I. Amen. For mankind, she said, was made in the image and likeness of God. She said that in 1897 Testimonies. What she was saying, brethren, what she was saying is that your body and mine, this living organism, it belongs to God. It belongs to him by creation and redemption. He has imbued us with powers and abilities from heaven itself. God created us and gave us powers not unlike those found in heaven. He has imbued us with these powers, and what she's actually saying is that this house, this body, this temple, which you and I carry around every day, she said it houses the Spirit of God. Mm-hmm. Amen. Did you hear what I said? Amen. Ellen White said that this organism that God created, this body, this temple, he created to house the Spirit of God. Amen. God's Spirit lives in this. Amen. His Spirit lives in this. Amen. He lives therein, and the powers and ability that dwell therein are for his use in revealing himself to the world. Amen. Servant of the Lord had a number of things to say in regard to this amazing revelation, and this is an amazing revelation, admit it to some of us. She went on. She said that if we abuse, have mercy. She said that if we abuse or misuse this temple of God and the powers and abilities therein, think about it. She said if we misuse or abuse this temple, we dishonor God. We dishonor him. We rob him of the honor that belongs to him alone. Amen. This is his house on this earth. Yes. She said that 1896 in Testimonies. In other words, she is saying that if we abuse or misuse this organism that God created for himself, brethren, it is sin. Amen. The prophet of the Lord said that. Misusing this that houses the Spirit of God, she said is sin. Mm-hmm. These things are terrifying when I study them. Our bodies, brethren, our bodies are the Spirit of God's dwelling place. And the servant of the Lord declared that this crowning act, this creation creation made in his image was to be the counterpart of God. When God made you and I, he did so intending for us to be his representatives on this earth. I know you've heard that before, but I don't know if you thought about it this way. The reason for our creation was to have a presence of God on this planet. The servant of the Lord says that our God, the one who created us in his image, did so to house his spirit that would represent him on this earth, so that there would be a presence of the God of the entire universe on this earth.
Amen. Amen.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
I think this is bigger than any of us can imagine.
It is. Yes.
She said that in 1895. Review and Herald. This fact that we are his counterpart should impress us with the importance of teaching by precept and example the sin of defiling by the indulgence of appetite or by any other practices, any other sinful practices, the body which is divine to represent God in this world.
Amen.
Review and Herald, 1895. The sad thing is, brethren, that we have defiled this body, this house of God's Spirit, and this tragedy, this disaster, this catastrophe takes place at the table, indulging in an unhealthy diet, the eating of flesh and all of its products. It is sad, brethren. It is sad that this wonderful organism, this representation of God on this earth, does not receive half the care that is often given to the lifeless machines and things around our home.
Come on, preacher.
Listen. The care that some of us give to our cars to ensure that they are performing at an optimal level, we don't give to this body that was created to house the Spirit of God.
Amen.
We give more care to things than we do to the dwelling place of the Spirit. We regularly engage in diets that result in disease and premature death. The question is asked, don't I have a right to do as I please with my own body? The servant of the Lord answers with an emphatic no. She states we have no moral right because we are violating the laws of health which God has given. We are God's property. Every human being is obligated to preserve this living machinery, our body that is fearfully and wonderfully made. One soul, she said, one soul is of more value than a world.
Amen.
We spent billions, trillions, probably a number that they haven't even put a name to yet, to go out into space, to try and see other planets. Who knows what the Hubble has finally cost? It's beyond price to see other worlds. There are billions of them out there. She said that one soul is of more value than any of those worlds. She continued, everyone who will enter the kingdom of God must develop a character that is the counterpart of the character of God. Every one of us has an obligation to ensure that our character is just like that of God. In other words, whatever anyone sees in Jesus, because we say we are Christians, they should see in us. No one, she said, will dwell in heaven with God but those whose character mirror his. Somebody should have said amen.
Amen.
When we allow appetite to control our being, we are not exhibiting the character of God to the world. What we are in fact doing, according to Ellen White, is violating the laws of God. She is saying that any exhibition of character that is not unlike God is sin. And when we fill the stomach with unhealthy food craved by a morbid appetite, her words, a morbid appetite, the servant of the Lord says that we have violated God's laws. We have in fact sinned. Eating and drinking anything, she says, that injures the temple that God created to house his spirit interferes with his order. This indulgence of appetite results in creating obstructions in bone, brain, and muscle, which destroys God's creation and results in untold suffering and premature death. She said many attribute this to the providence of God. That say it again. Many attribute this premature death to the providence of God. Sickness, suffering, and all kinds of diseases that lead to death due to the indulging in an unhealthy diet has been said to be God's doing. It was their time, this they said. God took him. His time had come. And so God in his mercy took him. Ellen White said that that's a lie. She said it's a lie. Human suffering as a result of appetite is the result of a violation of God's physical law. All of the ills of man are not the result of God's providence. They exist because mankind has gone contrary to God's providence and rashly continues to disregard his law by sinning and indulging in appetite. This course, professed Christians generally pursue irrespective of health and life, bring upon them, she said, a train of evil. God is not responsible for suffering, which allows an unhealthy diet and a wayward lifestyle. God is not responsible for disease. The eating of flesh foods and a wayward lifestyle is the reason for disease and many of the ills of society. Ellen White said in Testimonies, March and November of 1896, that eating of animal flesh, listen to this. She said this in 1896. The eating of animal flesh causes scrofulous tumors. You know what those are? Those are tuberculosis like bacteria of the lymph nodes. 1896, she said that. It causes scrofulous tumors. Humors, she said, not tumors, they call them humors with an H, cancerous tumors, diseases of the lungs, the liver, and the kidneys. 1896. Brethren, the creation account records the diet that assures health and happiness as we worship and serve the Lord here. However, we've strayed from God's diet of choice, and the results are sickness, suffering, and premature death. I want you to listen to this. I know you've been listening, but I want you to listen to this. When I read this, I began to tremble. The servant of the Lord said that mothers, who did I say? Mothers who prepare the meals that they place on the tables before their children do not educate themselves in preparing meals that prevent disease and premature death. Those mothers, she said, are in fact murdering their own children. They stand over their graves, mourning over their death, and trying hard to reconcile themselves by saying it was God's will that they died, that it was their time. She said that is a lie. Their deaths are the result of those mothers' own sinful behavior and not preparing meals as instructed by God for their families. Listen, Brother Grant loves you. You understand what I'm saying? We got people dying. I travel all the way to Miami to anoint people dying of cancer. I preach funerals of people dying of cancer. I'm tired of it. We need to become educated and understand what God wants and how He wants us to live, so that this will stop and we can help others. We can educate others. Hear this stuff. take it to heart and go out and tell it to somebody else. I don't think God is pleased with our behavior. I do not think so. Go out and share it with somebody else. It is not the fault of our gracious and merciful Heavenly Father that His people are dying because of through suffering and diseases. It's not His fault, she said. It is our fault. She said that in the health reform of 1873. She went on to say that by living largely upon the flesh of dead animals, she said, listen to this, she said we partake of their nature. Did you hear that? A meat diet changes the disposition and strengthens animalism. It excites the animal propensities to increase activities and strengthens the animal's passions. You hear what I say? In other words, because of a meat diet, we take on the bullish nature of animals. You witness it. Some of you have seen it, right? Somebody who always want to fight. Huh? They're always, just like animals, on the defensive. Come on now. She said because of their animalistic nature, they seem to have a propensity. You know that word propensity, right? It's a natural tendency for belligerence. You know the word belligerence, right? A belligerent person is somebody who always wants to start something. You know, you heard the children say it. You know, every time I see so-and-so, they always want to start something. Want to fight all the time. She said we take on the nature of the animal that we eat. She said as those animal propensities are increased, the intellectual and moral powers are decreased. The use of the flesh of animals benumbs the sensibilities, the mind. It is impossible, she said, for those with a regular diet of meat to have an unclouded brain and an active intellect. All right, listen. She said, she made this statement in Review and Herald 1883. She said, meat is not essential for strength or health. If it was the Lord's, if meat is absolutely necessary for health and strength, then the Lord made a mistake when He provided food for Adam and Eve before the fall. What did He provide for them? Fruits, vegetables, and grains. She said all the elements of nutrition are contained in fruits, vegetables, and grain. There's absolutely no reason to touch a piece of meat. She went on to say, and I like this, she went on to say that God intends to bring His people back to live upon simple fruits, vegetables, and grains. He led the children of Israel into the wilderness where they couldn't get a flesh diet. And He gave them the bread of heaven. They ain't angels' food, huh? But they craved the flesh pots of Egypt and mourned and cried for flesh in spite of the promise God made to them that if they submit to His will, He will carry them into the land of Canaan and establish them there, a pure, holy, and happy people, and there would not be a sick one among them. He would take away all sickness. He would have given them flesh if it was necessary for their health, but He who created and redeemed them led them through that long journey in the wilderness to educate them, discipline them, and train them in correct habits. I like to look at what we've gone through and say that we've been on a long journey. We've been through the wilderness, and now we've been educated and disciplined so we can change now. We can get off the meats and all the other products that come from meat and begin to live a happy and healthy life as we worship and serve the Lord. Amen? Amen. That's what He wants for us. That's what He wants for us. I want to read something to you, and then I want to show you some things. The WHO. Anybody know what the WHO is? All you medical people. What is it? the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization has determined that dietary factors account for at least 30% of all cancers in Western countries and up to 20% in developing countries. When cancer researchers started to search for links between diet and cancer, one of the most noticeable findings was that people who avoided meat, people who avoided what? Meat, were much less likely to develop the disease, cancer. Large studies in England and Germany showed that vegetarians, what? Vegetarians. Were about 40% less likely to develop cancer compared to meat eaters. In the United States, listen carefully. In the United States, researchers studied Seventh-day Adventists, a religious group that is remarkable because although nearly all members avoid tobacco and alcohol and follow generally healthful lives, about half of the Seventh-day Adventist population is vegetarian, while the other half consumes modest amounts of meat. This fact allows scientists to separate the effects of eating meat from other factors. Overall, these studies show significant reductions in cancer risk among those who avoided meat, half of the Seventh-day Adventists. In contrast, Harvard study shows that daily meat eaters have approximately three times the colon cancer risk compared to those who rarely eat meat. Somebody else say amen. Amen. Now, I want to show you something here. We got time. I want to share this with you. I think it's important. And remember, Brother Grant only does what the Lord wants him to do. Amen? I think you know I love you, right? You're the only one person said that. Only one person said that. Diseases that animals carry. Creutzfeldt-Jacobs disease, the human form of mad cow disease. Everybody's heard of mad cow disease, right? All right, mad cow. When we talk about mad cow disease, what we're talking about is bovine spongiform encephalopathy, commonly known as mad cow disease. It is a fatal neurodegenerative disease, encephalopathy, in cattle that causes a spongy degeneration of the brain and spinal cord. Otherwise, it is known as BSE. It has a long incubation period, from 2.5 to 5 years. You know this disease can be growing inside of a cow up to 5 years before there is one symptom. One symptom appears. They don't even know it. So BSE, it is caused by a misfolded protein known as a prion, which is normally found on cell surfaces. For reasons still unknown, this protein becomes altered and destroys nervous system tissue, the brain and spinal cord. In the United Kingdom, the country that was worst affected by this epidemic in 1986 and 1998, many of you remember that, 180,000 cattle were infected and 4.4 million were slaughtered as they tried to eradicate this disease. It is transmitted to humans by eating foods contaminated with brain, spinal cord, or digestive tract of infected carcasses. And I don't care what they tell you, they cannot control it. However, the infectious agent, although most highly concentrated in the nervous system, can be virtually found throughout the body of that beast. Throughout the entire cattle body, it can be found. Not just where they said it, but throughout the body. In humans, this mad cow disease is known as Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, a fatal form of encephalitis caused by prions, abnormal proteins found in the brain tissue of cows. Robert, let's go to that slide, that first one. Now, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease or CJD is a rare degenerative and invariably fatal brain disorder. If you are diagnosed with this disease, it is eventually going to kill you. Each year there are 300 diagnoses diagnosed cases of this disease in the United States. Typically, onset symptoms occurs at about age 60, and about 90% of the individuals who contract this disease die within 1 year. In the early stages of this disease, the individual may experience a loss of memory, behavioral changes, lack of coordination, and visual impairment. As the illness progresses, mental deterioration becomes pronounced and involuntary movement, blindness, weakness of extremities, and coma occur. CJD is characterized by rapidly progressive dementia. Initially, individuals experience problems with muscular coordination, personality changes, including impaired memory, judgment, thinking, and impaired vision. People with CJD also experience insomnia and depression. It is interesting to note that CJD does not cause fever or other flu-like symptoms, so you wouldn't know you had it. However, as the illness progresses, mental impairment becomes severe. Individuals often develop involuntary muscle jerks called myoclonus, and they go blind. They eventually lose the ability to move and speak and enter a coma. Pneumonia and other infections often occur in these individuals, and it leads to death. If you get this disease, if you're diagnosed with it, you are dead within a year. It's a horrible disease, and it has a direct link to mad cow disease, which means that it is the result of eating meat. Remember, you heard me say that it's a result of prions, which are cells that become folded as a result of this disease. All right, now, you don't get prions from healthy food, okay? Prions are what is known as a transmissible spongiform encephalopathies, okay? They are a group of progressive conditions that affect the brain and nervous system of animals and humans. A prion is a type of protein that can trigger normal proteins in the brain to fold abnormally. These diseases are spread to humans by infected meat products and results in the deterioration of one's mental and physical abilities. This is a very dangerous disease. All right, it is caused by, as I said, abnormal proteins that are not killed by standard methods of sterilizing surgical equipment. It builds up in cells. The brain slowly shrinks. As you can see over here, where the brain has shrunk, and the tissues fill with holes, which gives it this spongy-like appearance. And the consequence of those affected is that they lose the ability to think and move properly and suffer from memory loss. It is always fatal, usually within a year of onset illness. Avoid animal products that contain bits of spinal cord and brain tissue. That includes products made from meat, including dairy. Now, what I found in my research, and you would think that, if it's only found in the brain tissue and the spinal cord, then other parts of the animal might be safe. No, what I found in the research is that during processing, the pieces of spinal cord and brain tissue can find itself throughout the animal as they're processing it, getting it ready for market. Now, the Center for Disease Control estimates that there are 76 million cases of foodborne diseases every single year, resulting in 325,000 hospitalizations and 5,000 deaths. And that is just in the United States. We don't hear about this stuff, We don't hear about it. But it's happening. It's happening. And I understand more and more why God did not want us touching those animals. I think, now, most of us are familiar with salmonella. There was an outbreak not long ago, and it was a horrible outbreak. But the thing about salmonella is, as you can see, 1.4 million cases of salmonella infections are reported every year just in this country alone. It is a widespread thing, is worldwide, in fact. In industrialized countries, it is referred to as non-typhoid salmonella and is an important cause of bacteria gastroenteritis. In the Netherlands alone, it is estimated that there are 3 cases per 1,000 inhabitants per year. In the United States, salmonella, as we just read, causes 1.4 million illnesses and 600 deaths every single year in this country from salmonella. I think we, as we said, it's a bacterium that lives in the intestines of animals and birds. People become infected with the bacteria when they eat contaminated foods of animal origins, such as beef, poultry, milk, and eggs. Even eggs and milk is not safe. And we need to study that. We need to find out the dangers that, because eggs and milk is meat products, am I right?
Right.
Although some cases with salmonella infections don't require hospitalization, estimates of the actual number of infections run as high as 20 million cases every single year, resulting in an annual total of up to 1,000 deaths. That's salmonella. Salmonella alone. Now, E. coli, Escherichia coli, or E. coli, common sources of infection include raw milk, cheese made from raw milk, and ground beef. I think we have a short video of that. Robert?
E. coli are a large and diverse group of bacteria. Although most strains of E. coli are harmless, others can make people sick. Some kinds of E. coli can cause diarrhea, while others cause urinary tract infections, respiratory illness and pneumonia, and other illnesses. Still, other kinds of E. coli are used as markers for water contamination. Some kinds of E. coli cause disease by making a toxin called Shiga toxin. The bacteria that make these toxins are called Shiga toxin-producing E. coli, or STEC for short. The most commonly identified of these in North America is E. coli 0157H7. When you hear news reports about outbreaks of E. coli infections, they are usually talking about E. coli 0157. In addition to E. coli 0157, many other kinds can cause disease. People of any age can become infected. Very young children and the elderly are more likely to develop severe illness than others, but even healthy older children and young adults can become seriously ill. The symptoms of these infections vary for each person, but often include severe stomach cramps, diarrhea, and vomiting. If there is fever, it is usually not very high. Most people get better within 5 to 7 days. Some infections are very mild, but others are severe or even life-threatening. E. coli live in the guts of some animals, including cattle, goats, sheep, deer, and elk. The major source for human illness is cattle. Infections typically start when someone consumes contaminated food, unpasteurized raw milk products, or drinks contaminated water. Contact with cattle or contact with the feces of infected people can also cause infection. Some foods are considered to carry such a high risk of infection from E. coli 0157 or other harmful pathogens that health officials recommend that people avoid them completely. There are believed to be about 70,000 infections from E. coli 0157 each year in the United States alone. To learn more about E. coli or other food pathogens, please visit the website shown on the screen.
E. coli is another dangerous disease. It is a disease, and I don't think a lot of people know that, but E. coli is a very dangerous disease. I think we went back a little. That might be my fault. To lower the risk, as I think he mentioned, of contracting E. coli, you should avoid raw milk and other unpasteurized dairy products. I'm one of those who really preach, avoiding dairy products altogether. And that's one of the things that I preach, and there's reason for that because it has been proven that it is no good for us. Parasites. A parasite is an organism that lives on or in a host and gets its food from or at the expense of the host. Now, this is really frightening and terrifying here. We actually have this thing living inside of us. A parasite lives inside and lives off of us. In other words, as long as we're alive, it's alive inside us, eating and growing and producing, multiplying, right? And it's really a sad thing. A fellow had there was a little video about pinworms, which also, are parasites that live inside of us. Robert, would you play that video, please? It's just short. It's very short.
Hi. I understand we're going to talk about worms and parasites today. Okay, we'll start with the pinworm. sometimes called the seat worm. It's one of the most popular worm parasites that afflict mankind. 500 million people worldwide have pinworms. 50 million people in the United States, at least 5 million children have pinworms in the United States. And you want to know the real hooker? Most people don't know they have them. Okay, well, why wouldn't they know they have them? Well, the symptoms of the pinworm are a lot of general vague things like fevers and a general lethargic feeling, which you might just feel, kind of lethargic and not so hot. Anyway, but they can also cause blood in the stools and an itching anus. Hence the term seat worm. Also, the pinworm is also known as seat worm because your seat itches. You ever have an itchy butt? You ever watch little children scratch their butts? You should be checking them for pinworms because there are pinworms out there. And little children are really bad for scratching their butts and then eating food and things, so they the pinworm, when it does its cycle, if you ingest them, they go into your stomach where they go into the small intestine where the larva matures and then moves into the large intestine where it fully matures to the point where it spawns eggs, and then these eggs find their way down to the anus where the itching takes place. So it's kind of it can be a vicious kind of cycle going around. If you see blood in the stools, if you got the itching anus, chances are real good you got infestation of pinworms going on. All right. If you have dogs and cats and pets, they can have parasites, but fortunately they don't seem to get pinworms, so we can't blame Fido for these kind of problems. Here's what a pinworm looks like. By the way, I don't know if you can see a picture there, but that's what a pinworm looks like. They are visible. Their average length is about a half an inch in size. And of course, a lot of parasites are very, very small and microscopic. You can't see them with the naked eye, but you can see pinworms. So, anyway, if you think you got pinworms, I wish you well. Hi. I'm saying we're going to talk about worm.
Another parasite is I have not figured out how to pronounce it, China or whatever worm. It's Spirillus prunella. Okay, there's a nematode parasite found in rats, pigs, bears, and humans. And a lot of folks say, well, we are not around here. Well, yes, folks have rats in their homes, and a lot of folks eat pig. If you eat a pork chop, you're eating a pig. And so, and they're found in humans as a result. I want to close this out with a little video that I just wanted to share with you. And so, Robert, if you put this last one on. The last one, Robert. The last one, Robert.
He saw that.
You want to see the war?
Pay attention to this one. I like this one. This is very good.
My name is Sabrina Donahue Moore, and this is the story of my brother Ernie. My father passed away of a massive heart attack. So needless to say that it was a life-altering event for all of us. And we have a fantastic mother that just embraced raising us and trying to live the standard that we were before my dad had passed and filling in as mother and father. And at that point, I think Ernie had a new mission for taking care of me and protecting me. He took on a dual role of actually being my brother and protecting me too. So he is the one that showed me how to change the tire on my first car just in case I got stranded. He would role play on me getting attacked so that I know how to protect myself. Although he did put me in figure fours and that kind of thing, I'm not really sure what that had to do with protecting myself. But he really embraced encouraging me and being there for me. Ernie always had such a gentle quality about him. He was so quiet, that he listened to everything that you had to say. And then he'd find some way to help you once he knew what you needed. There wasn't a time that he didn't encourage me and tell me that I can do it, that he's there for me, and that the world is mine. He was just really one of a kind. And that never wavered throughout my entire life, just him being there.
He was a confident, he was an independent, grown man that enjoyed every moment of life. I'm starting to see that go away. It was so hard. Ernie is only 41 years old. He wasn't supposed to have it.
CJD is otherwise known as Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. It's a very rare prion disease. We don't know much about it, but we believe prions are proteinaceous infectious particles that arise from misfolded proteins.
The reporting mechanism for suspected and clinically diagnosed CJD are inconsistent across all 50 states. In fact, there are 7 states that have no reporting mechanisms at all. This results in an inability to determine whether the disease process is clustering and if there's perhaps environmental processes that are contributing to this disease process becoming more common.
They say that CJD, if you Google it, if you Google CJD, it says that it affects 1 in a million. And that is absurd because of the fact that we don't have an easier way to diagnose CJD. Then there's cases out there that are not being counted. We have states that aren't reporting it, so we're not given a chance to do autopsies or brain biopsies.
I think we could do better than that. I think if we as a medical community come together and say, CJD needs to be a priority, we need to, as a nation, report this and start the research. We can't do good research without good data. And it's time to start collecting data. And I think we can do it if we all work together. So that's my challenge to everybody who watches this video is, let's start working together. Let's get all 50 states reporting. Let's collect the data and let's go after the research and let's figure out a way to treat people, to make their lives better, and to maybe someday come up with a cure for CJD. We can do this.
I think the cure is prevention. And prevention means, to change our diets. I hope this hasn't been an inconvenience. I thought this is something that we need to know. I think it can not only help us, but it can help our friends and our loved ones, our neighbors, anyone that we bother to share it with. So what we need to do is just determine in our hearts and minds that we want to be everything that God wants us to be in this world. He wants us to worship and serve Him, but He wants us to do so happily and healthy. And you agree with me, I know you do, when I say that if you're unhealthy, if you're suffering for whatever reasons, you cannot serve God the way He wants to be served. Because we're so focused on that dilemma that we're dealing with. So if you would please, I think we have a closing song. Let's stand and let's share this closing song. And then we'll pray and dismiss.